What's up, guys? Farooqi Bros here, back with another podcast, and today we're reviewing the Fantastic Four First Steps. The movie just came out, so we'll do maybe half the review as a non-spoiler review, then we'll switch over to spoiler talk as well. So let's get right into it. Who wants to kick us off? I feel like, does anyone have? Should I kick us off? I guess it should be me. So
who liked the movie the best?
okay, so I'll kick us off. So I think number one, it's a good year for superhero movies, man. I think it's been a few years since we had more than one good superhero movie. In fact, I think the batting average these last few years has been zero good superhero movies. So outside of the rare one here and there. So I gotta say, I'm pretty happy to say that Fantastic Four is a pretty solid time all around. It's stylish, it's vibrant, and it has a back to basics attitude for Marvel. Something that I feel like it's been missing these days. Marvel movies feel like homework. Like, for example, Thunderbolts just came out, but if you didn't have some knowledge of like 5 different Disney Plus shows, then you're kind of going in with not much backstory in these characters. This time for Fantastic Four, there's no homework. It's like a fresh start. So if the 30 films and TV shows and everything of Marvel is too much, this is a good entry point. I think that's what really helps this movie. I think the cast, I think with Pedro Pascal and Vanessa Kirby and the rest, I think they have a ton of chemistry, which really helps this movie. I think I like their camaraderie. It does feel like a family. And then Shackman's directing style is very sleek, and that's what I liked about this movie. It's a very clean, very cleanly directed throughout, and I think I really appreciated that. The visuals are really nice. The directing style is pretty good. So I was really happy about that. I think I really enjoyed it. I think narratively the film was overall solid. I do think it's a little straightforward. It's a little by the numbers. It might even be a little predictable, but I do think that despite all those few nitpicks, I do think it's a good time. I don't know about you. It felt like the runtime, which is, it's a pretty lean and mean hour and 55 minutes. Like, it's not a long movie, but it did feel a little long to me when I was sitting through it. So I'm not sure if that's a thing that the rest of you guys felt, but I walked in knowing it's under 2 hours, and then midway through the movie, I'm like, is this a 2.5 hour movie? Did I miss research this? Am I thinking about a different one? But it's not a bad thing. It's okay to have longer movies, but I do think this movie, every minute was felt because this pacing is slower than normal. But I do think overall very strong. I think it's a solid movie. I'm leaning on 3.5 out of 5 coming out of it. So 3.5 is kind of where I'm sitting with it. Of course, this is my straight out of the theater reaction. I think all 4 of us got out of it just within the last hour. So it's all very fresh in our minds. And as any movie goes, a few days later, a few weeks later, a few months later, we might change our minds one way or the other. But right now, it's looking pretty good. I think Marvel can put this as a W on their belt. I think this is a win for them, especially after the last few years. So that's my quick review. Zion, I'm gonna pass it to you next. What do you think about the Fantastic Four First Steps?
I agree with pretty much everything you said. I think the set pieces, the production design, that was all really what carried this film. I mean, it kind of set it apart from the usual, typical visual style of MCU that we get, that we've even seen this year with Thunderbolts and other projects, where with Captain America, where it's like that same grayscale, cement, sludge feeling. But this, the colors, the vibrancy, it really did pop out in the set design, in the costumes. And I think that kind of definitely set it apart from a visual standpoint that kept you engaged as well. But I think you hit the nail on the head about the narrative kind of being the shortcoming, where it was very predictable. It did not break the mold. It did not kind of push beyond expectations in any way, which is unfortunate, because when you watch the trailers, when you come into this movie, you're thinking that, okay, it's going to push the boundaries in every way. This is the true start to the new era of MCU, with these new characters. But it kind of it was a very basic introduction and not much more than that, unfortunately. So that was kind of a big disappointment for me. I think that's probably why I'm not so hot on it, though I do feel like it's a 3.5 movie. But it's funny you said, oh, that's a win for MCU, when really you would think the bar is so low that a 3.5 means a win for them. But I do hope it does get the money, because it is a good movie. It's by far the best MCU movie that's come out this year, but it's not without its issues per se. So I think that's why I do have some kind of faults, but it's really just in the narrative being very kind of basic, and it just went exactly how you'd expect, which is unfortunate to say the least, because you'd want this movie, since it's not attached kind of or locked down by the other movies, you'd want to kind of break the mold and do something crazy. And it didn't push that boundary, which is unfortunate. But I'm also thinking 3.5.
Samir, I want to go to you next. What did you think about Fantastic Four? Because I think you were one of the people a little more high on it coming in.
Uh, yeah, I thought it was pretty solid. I think I enjoy that it has like a unique visual identity and aesthetic. I like the retro futuristic backdrop they have. I think the character dynamics work really well. Even though I think Pedro Pascal kind of phoned it in. I know he's kind of getting flamed on Twitter right now, and I do think that there are some valid criticisms for his performance in this film. Uh, but I think the first half of this film was pretty solid. I think the second half is where you can see that we can see how Kevin Feige probably um, had to interfere to get that runtime down below 2 hours. And the second half was pretty rushed. But I think the first half and the setup in that world, I think it was done pretty solid. Again, I agree that story very safe, the script very safe. They could have done something more with it, uh, but overall, I think it was solid. I think Marvel really needed a win. I mean, it's kind of funny that Superman just happened 3 weeks ago, and it's like both the universes are kind of having a pseudo restart where DC is restarting completely, and Marvel kind of needs a win right now, so they're kind of pseudo restarting. And I think both of them have been just as solid as each other. So I'm glad they're two solid films back to back in the superhero world. So yeah.
Yeah, and we'll get to the Superman versus Fantastic Four thing because hey, it's not our fault they released it 3 weeks apart, so it's gonna be there for comparisons. But let's talk about this movie as it is. Umar, I'm jumping to you next. What did you think about the film?
Yeah, I think I agree with the takes that you guys have been giving so far. I was also really surprised about the pacing because I went into it thinking that this is gonna be lightning fast. And it just wasn't. So at some point in the movie, I was like, "What is going on?" It's just paced very slow. So that's something I didn't like. But I thought that like for the most part, quality wise, they did everything right. So like they had good visuals. I think the score was good to be honest for the most part. The color grading was great. I think in terms of the characters, like it felt very much like they just went for a comic booky feel and they achieved that. Like it felt like a comic book just put to the screen. That's how I felt like kind of throughout the movies. It felt like they just took panels and like ripped them off. So I like that. I actually like that about the movie. Um, but yeah, I think it was just it felt slow at times. Um, Galactus was all right. Like I think I wanted more. Like I wanted more than just "Oh, I'm hungry" or whatever it was. Like I wanted, I wanted a little bit more on that front. Um, and then yeah, a lot of the plot was just kind of very predictable. So you didn't feel there was no feeling in the movie where you're like, oh, okay, like I don't know what's about to happen next. There was no part of the movie where I felt anxious or any of those emotions that you kind of want to see from a big like Marvel blockbuster. So I feel like they struggled in that regard, but similar to Superman, it's like I feel like this whole genre has been starved for good stuff. So when we see good visuals and quality wise, some of the stuff is there. We have no choice but to be like, all right, we got to give it to them. We got to give a win to them. So I feel like that's what's happening here too. I think it's actually I personally thought it was worse. Like I don't think it's in the same category as Superman. Uh, and we'll probably get to that in the next category. But yeah, that's my initial thoughts on it.
Yeah, we've all kind of said the same thing in the sense of both franchises, DC and Marvel, they needed to win. Marvel, if we just recap their year, they released 3 MCU movies this year, and the first two underperformed. Captain America 4 came out this year and it flopped. It made 80 million in the first weekend, domestically. The Thunderbolts movie just came out in May or April, and while it was solid, it was like not a bad movie, but it was pretty forgettable, and not many people came to theater to watch it. Like in the end, you weren't getting butts in the seat, and that's in the end that's the business. You got to get people to watch it. So Fantastic Four is kind of like, listen, and Kevin Feige said this in an interview just last week. That's why it's fresh in my mind as well. He said that all these movies have become homework, and people don't like homework. It's like, what? I gotta watch this Disney Plus show to understand this movie. just forget it. And I'm not gonna watch it at all. And that's what the general audience thinks. The general audience doesn't really care unless you force them to care and make them want to care. So Fantastic Four, the premise and all the trailers, like, hey, this is a one-off. And I think the movie really does that. It kind of feels like a one-off. It's like, hey, here's a self-contained story. We're not going to connect much to the MCU, almost to a detriment. Like, we'll get to this in the spoiler talk, but they really didn't want to do anything to do with the main MCU timeline. It's kind of like, you could watch the movie in a vacuum and be like, oh yeah, that's just the start of a brand new Marvel reboot. You know, like, I wouldn't think any different. So, like, there's nothing MCU about it. That's a double-edged sword. It's a good thing because MCU, like Zion was pointing out, like, it has its poor aesthetic that's kind of been attached to it. Like, there's some bad filmmaking practices. Even Kevin Feige admitted, I don't know how he could admit it. He was like, yeah, I'm never satisfied with the script when I'm walking into a movie. And half the time we're writing the script as we go. So they're filming and the script's not done. And in fact, that's how Doomsday is being made, and it could be a good product because the Russos know how to do that kind of filmmaking where you're kind of on the fly creating things. But the fact that you don't know the next page of the script and you're just filming the pages you want, like, you know, the third act, you just film the third act, but you don't know the first and second act. Well, is what it is. You know, like you got to build your way back. And this is actually an example for Endgame. They had the Endgame visuals, like the fight scene, pre-viz during Civil War, but they didn't know how they're going to get to that point. They just knew that, oh yeah, we got to have this battle, and here's what it's going to look like. They already storyboarded the final battle of Endgame, but they had no story up to the point that can make their way there, which can show sometimes in the movie. And I think Endgame didn't age as well, let's say, Infinity War, but that's a side topic. So I think, Samir, you said you gave a score. Me and Zan are both teetering the 3.5 range. I think I said 3.5 in the end, but Samir, did you give a score to that movie? This one?
Yeah, I'm between a 3.5. I think I gave it a 3 on Letterboxd right
now. What about you, Umar? Where are you sitting from a score perspective?
Yeah, I'll give it a 3 as well, or 3.5. I don't know. I think as quality-wise, if I just judge it based off of what they're putting out, probably a 3.5. I'll round up just because, like, they did a few things that you need to do right to get a good superhero movie. But yeah, I think they just struggle. I think, with Marvel, they're struggling with, like, trying to work towards another big kind of world-ending multiversal crazy thing without understanding that, like, the success that brought, like Endgame, Infinity War particularly, like, you worked up to that with honestly a bunch of solos and then building up to the Avengers movies. Like, you did it step by step, and I don't think you can. It's very hard after a crazy movie like Endgame to, like, work up to something big like that again. I think, like, Doomsday is another. I think that's why you have to bring back, like, the main person. Like, you can't actually. It's hard to capture that lightning in a bottle twice.
Yeah.
And I feel like they're gonna struggle with that. Like, that's something they're gonna continue to struggle with.
I'm curious to see how many people show up to Endgame. I'm sorry, name Doomsday. I think people will just for the Robert Downey Jr. factor, but we'll see. This next question doesn't have to be a long thing. Oh, is that a point to make? Or are you going to say something?
No, go ahead.
All right. Next one, we don't have to go too long this one, but I think it's the elephant in the room. Everyone's going to ask this question. They came out 3 weeks apart. It's the battle of the superheroes. DC and Marvel are fighting at the box office. 2 releases in the exact same month. We haven't had something like that happen since, like, BVS and Civil War. They released one at the end of March and one at the beginning of April. Like, they all were basically fighting. And BVS and Civil War are actually very similar in some of the plot structure. And in Fantastic Four and Superman, they actually have some similar beats too. I don't know if everyone felt that way. I feel like there's a few things that are similar to both movies. But now you got to pick one, And so, yeah, I'll go to you first. I mean, you got to pick one. There's similarities. I feel like they're not that different from each other. But what is the movie of the summer? Like, if you had to tell, let's say you're talking to the general audience, they only had the budget for one of these. Which one are you telling them to go watch?
There are similarities, and if I was asked this a year ago, what my prediction would be, it would not be what my answer is. And I'm gonna have to say, if I had to give advice to any family, they're gonna go watch a movie, go watch Superman. I think Superman was more of a fun movie. I think the character of Superman is, like, just a highlight that is sitting on top of all of these movies, both Fantastic Four and Superman itself. And I think that element you just don't get here. And I can't believe I'm saying this, but sometimes during this movie, I almost felt a little bit bored. Like, it was moving either too slow or too fast, and I'm like, it's not pulling me in. But Superman, surprisingly, I was engaged. It was a fun movie, and I know some of the jokes might not be, like, too funny and stuff like that. and same James Gunn humor, but it was still engaging. It was still it had me in the movie that this movie kind of struggled with. So I would say if you're going with the family, if you have money for one movie, Superman is a movie that you're really going to enjoy.
Samir, I'm passing that baton to you now. I mean, you heard the question, so how's your answer?
Yeah, I mean, I have both of them at the same score right now. For me, I think I would go with Fantastic Four for pretty much the same reasons as Zion, but I felt it Fantastic Four instead of Superman. I think the James Gunn thing, it was kind of annoying me so much during the movie. I think they're both pretty predictable. I think Superman does something better than Fantastic Four, where it kind of goes out of the generic superhero trope. But I think overall, aesthetically, I had a better time with Fantastic Four. But both 3 out of 5. If you ask me which movie to recommend this year, it probably wouldn't be either of them, but Fantastic Four for me.
I mean, there's people out there who only go to theaters to watch superhero movies, so this is like the question for them. It's like, hey, for general audience, number one, like what would you watch? They'll probably choose one of these movies.
I'd be like, don't do that. Go watch a movie.
Go watch a movie. So there you go. But hey, what were you gonna recommend? Smurfs? Like I don't know.
Rihanna is Smurfette. So
okay, there you go. So Omar, what about you? Prompt is simple: Superman or Fantastic Four?
I would say Superman just because I think if your family's going to has to pick one between the two, I think they would actually have more fun with Superman. And I think that like even from a crowd standpoint, even though our crowd was pretty loud when it came to Fantastic Four, like we had people clapping here and there, we had like more of a reaction to the movie. I think there's parts to Superman where like hearing kids and all different, like Superman felt like it wasn't just like one age group watching it. It felt like you had like 3-4 generations of people sitting there and enjoying it. Like you could genuinely hear from everybody that they're enjoying it. So I would probably say go watch Superman. I think it's a better movie, to be honest.
Yeah,
like even though the scores are very similar, Superman's a better movie.
Yeah, and the movies are performing very similar in the box. If not box office, yeah, we haven't heard Fantastic Four's numbers, but performing well from a Rotten Tomatoes standpoint. Both of them have a very similar score. I think they're both in the 80s. I think Fantastic Four will fall a little lower and be equal Superman or even go under it. We'll see. I think the audience score hasn't come out yet. I think it'll be similar. I think the cinema score will be very similar. I think these movies are going to be very similar to the general audience. We who are big superhero aficionados, we're going to notice the nitty-gritty differences. But I think general audience will look at both these movies and feel like I'm kind of watching the same thing, except Superman is more recognizable than Fantastic Four, and he's just a little cooler to me. Maybe Fantastic Four feels a little like not to me, just from a box office perspective. This is their third time rebooting Fantastic Four, and the last two times, even though people have fans, didn't work. In the big scheme of things. So it's like this is your third try at Fantastic Four in the last 20 years. Superman is Superman. He's like the blueprint of superheroes. So I think there's a sense of like vibrancy to Superman. I think Superman in general feels more poppy. Like when you're watching it, it's vibrant, it's very visual, and it's pretty distinct, whether you like it or not. Like if you think Superman's color grading is way too saturated and it feels like a little too cartoony, then that's what it's trying to be. Like it's unapologetic in that. Fantastic Four also is pretty vibrant, but I feel like it's very sleek and it's very clean. And that's not bad. Clean filmmaking is a good thing. There's an example that I was in my head when I was coming here, but I should have wrote it down, where there's another movie that has very sleek filmmaking style, but it doesn't always translate. I don't remember what it is, but it reminds me a lot of this movie while I was watching it. Maybe it'll come up another time. But there's something that reminds me of Shackman's directing style here. But I digress. Last 5 minutes, doesn't too long for this one because we're still going to spoiler talk because I was mentioning this point kind of to tease myself in. It was the sense of this movie doesn't have a lot of MCU connections. So saying right now, big spoiler warning from this point forward, we're talking about whatever we want in this movie. So let's talk the no MCU connections, because I feel like this movie, for people who haven't seen Thunderbolts, at the end of Thunderbolts, the post-credit scene shows the Fantastic Four plane coming full speed into the MCU universe. And the way this movie was being set up and the way I thought it was going to go, I thought we're going to go with, Reed Richards has to make the ultimate sacrifice. Like they're going to lose this battle. And he's like, wait a minute, I can at least save my family and my son and will escape. And then he has to carry that guilt in the MCU, where it's like I let my own world die. Now I have to protect this one with everything I got. I feel like that would have been a really interesting like story decision. That would have given a lot of energy to Pedro Pascal's character and the rest of them. Like, oh, they have the burden of losing their entire world to Galactus, and now they got to protect this one. But instead, they didn't do that. They actually beat Galactus, which I don't know what you guys think about that. Like, they took him down. I thought they're gonna save this. He'll probably come back, but I feel like he's a kind of threat that would take the entire Avengers to beat. But they ultimately didn't go that route. We're going with Secret Wars, and we're going with a complete different storyline. Maybe Galactus will come back in Phase 7 or 8. I don't know if MCU will even survive by then, but if they're thinking that far ahead. But I thought they beat him. I'm like, okay. And then in the end, they didn't even go into space. I thought, okay, where's the hook? Where's the hook where you have a reason to go? I guess the hook is the post-credit scene, which, again, spoiler warning, shows Doctor Doom. It was kind of generic. It was like key dangling, but it was fine. Doctor Doom shows up, and he's like holding the kid, and they're like, oh, my God, and the whole crowd's going crazy with it. But that was very predictable. I feel like I could have written that myself, or ChatGPT could have written it, but I digress. The point is, the movie, I feel like, kind of minimized Galactus while also keeping him big, but at the end they beat him like, okay, Sue Storm with the power of friendship will take care of it. And she is very powerful, but it's just like she kind of sold him in the end, you know? She no diffed Galactus, which is fine. But it is what it is, you know, like it's happening. But that's my quick spoiler thoughts. Do you guys have any points about anything I made?
No.
Is there no spoiler talks here?
Listen, here's the problem number one. Problem number one with Silver Surfer was that, of course, like I don't understand the concept behind. Oh, now that she heard the voices of them, like all the world's crying out. Now she suddenly realized the error of her ways. When what is she expecting else? You know, like when she's going to Galactus to destroy his worlds, is she expecting them to be like happy, dancing, like celebrating that he's there? Of course, they'll be crying out in agony and like their world's being destroyed. So it's like that sudden switch. Suddenly she's like, I learned the error of my ways and I'll help them out, you know. And
I thought they would have done something with her.
That was kind of dumb.
I thought they would have done something with her memory, like maybe he's like wiping her memory every time he does it, or something like that. That would have made more sense.
That would be cool, yeah.
But like they just didn't do anything. I also the Doctor Doom thing is alright. I wish they just
I will say
it's the Russo. I think the Russo brothers directed that scene.
I think they directed that scene. I'm not sure they definitely directed the Thunderbolt scene, but I'm not sure they directed this scene. But you made a point that your audience was kind of hyped about this. Our audience was kind of quiet, I feel like. I thought of one or two people. I feel like there weren't more people cheered for my Superman screenings. I'm gonna say people were more excited for Superman in my theaters than this. Yeah. People, the only time there was like audible gasps was Doctor Doom. But the rest of the movie, like there was times where where the baby starts clapping himself for bringing back his mom. That was supposed to be please clap for the audience, but our audience did not clap.
So I think there was one like errant person to start.
One person clap, but that was like made for clapping scene. Like it was really like the please clap moment where Jeb Bush is saying it to the people, please clap. So I thought that was happening where the baby's really clapping, like okay, crowd clap, but no one clapped. So I just noticed that people weren't as engaged in my theater. Maybe because it's Queens, we didn't watch it in Manhattan, so maybe that's a big difference. But I don't know.
I mean, people weren't. It wasn't that people were engaged in this one. Like, if I was to compare this with, Infinity War, and it was not that level. But I think it was still, it was the early access thing. So like, the only people that are showing up are the people that paid a little bit extra, and they had like the theater representative or whatever was like talking about the movie and being like, oh, there's like for the diehard fans, there's 2 post credits, so stay behind. Like it was different, just the vibe was a little bit different. But I feel like Superman was just generic and people were very like for a general screening of a movie, there was way more, like particularly in Ottawa, there was way more, I think, love for it. But yeah, it was alright.
Smearby, any spoiler thoughts you want to give? Anything to do with like Galactus? Anything to do with the end of the movie? Anything to do with the post-credit scene? Do you have any thoughts on those spoilery aspects?
I think I agree on what you said before. For what Zion said about the Silver Surfer thing, this is like literally the same exact thing that happens in the other Fantastic Four movie, where it's like just a gender swap role reversal, where the Silver Surfer is talking to Sue Storm or Jessica Alba with Sue Storm, and then he does the sacrifice to take Galactus out. It's literally the exact same thing. So I don't know why they wouldn't go a different route. I guess now that they have Galactus there as an actual person, they thought it maybe would have worked better. I think maybe maybe if they do something where they kind of threw Galactus into the main universe or something, and he comes back later, then it'll be interesting. But yeah, Galactus kind of disappointing.
Galactus.
Yeah.
I like the actor. But...
So I wonder why the
Our
Fantastic
crowd is
Four are
the
randomly
actor's
showing
good.
up now.
What?
Like, I wonder why the Fantastic Four are randomly showing up to the other universe now. Because I
think
like the idea of like their universe
credits.
losing and then Reed Richards having to go there would have been like a billion times better.
I feel like that's
I don't
what
understand
I
what he's-
feel like I don't know if it's another cut. I feel like the whole time we were like, oh, he's always thinking about the worst case scenario. So I thought he would have already thought about, hey, what if we just lose this? We can still save ourselves. It would suck, but we could do it. You know. So, but they didn't do that route. Yeah. And then Galactus, I think he'll come back. Still he wouldn't. But yeah, that's the general. Is there any spoiler thoughts outside of that? I think we're good on most of it.
Galactus was a little bit disappointing, but hopefully it comes back a little better next time.
I do like the miniature work. Like it wasn't all CGI. When Galactus was walking through, you could tell it's like little toys. You know, like they were like the toy cars. Sometimes I prefer that. I'm like, oh, cool, miniatures.
I didn't like his scaling. I think he should have been bigger.
I thought he purposely got smaller. I don't know if they. Maybe I misunderstood.
Maybe. I don't know.
They said
He's
movie
not
is so stupid.
Or maybe it is.
The movie's so stupid because he said it was like
weird-
13% taller or something. It didn't seem that way.
I wanted the
There's like a
Galactus
weird cut where he gets out the chair, and then
Yeah.
he's just standing in the ocean like 1 second later. It's like, why'd they cut like that?
and
He's ore farming like
when he
like
stood up,
that.
he wasn't as tall as he should have been, but maybe he can just.
Hey, looking at the Statue of Liberty. I'm
What
like,
was the motive? I don't understand what the motive
America.
was.
He wants the kid.
Yeah, he wants the kid because he needs to feed himself. That's
You don't know if he's the kid will
Not the
become
whole
Galactus. He can die. He wants to die, and he just wants the kid to become the new Galactus. I think
yeah, it's all right.
that's what they're doing. Okay, and why come to the universe? Clearly, the Doctor Doom is going crazy with it. He probably stole the kid, ran away, and now they're following him.
Also, CGI baby at the end was so bad.
Yeah, I was gonna
Worst
say.
CGI ever.
I thought his hand was clipping through the baby's head at some point. I was like, especially when the thing is holding the baby. I'm like, no, it's clipping. I'm telling you, it was like the baby wasn't in the thing's hands. He was like holding nothing.
Yeah, because there's 2 CGI models.
It was obviously CGI. Yeah, it was obviously
The whole baby
CGI.
was CGI.
Robert Downey Jr. is probably sitting in some. It wasn't even Robert Downey Jr. It was just some guy.
Yeah, it was some
Just
guy.
some guy. Maybe just some guy, bro.
No, because they can't reveal him here. I mean, that's too much. They're waiting for the actual movie to So when Tom Holland sees him, like Mr. Stark, they have that moment to happen.
Yo, I don't know how they're gonna execute these next couple. Also, it's done. I think Kevin Feige said it's done. The Secret Wars is the last thing in the MCU. Like
he said, it's a soft, like we're gonna reboot, meaning it's all about the X-Men and maybe a couple of people. But I think they've realized their Phase 4 and 5 strategy collapsed because no one cares about. I don't know.
There's too many random characters. Clear the board. Focus on X-Men. Focus on Spider-Man. Those are your heavy hitters.
Well, they all said that they're going to abandon plot lines because they can't meet all of those plot lines. Like, you're never going to see Harry Styles show up in the Eternals ever again. Like, you're not going to see. Maybe you'll see Doctor Strange 3 and the eye opening. I don't know what are they going to follow up on these plot threads? Probably not. And that's what I mean. Like, after Secret Wars, they could just close the book and be like, we're not doing all that anymore. And once in a while, people will show up.
In all honesty, they had a chance after No Way Home to actually do like really focus on the Spider-Man and then like the X-Men showing up and then like
that's gonna be Secret Wars. Yeah.
Like you could have done that. Like you could have done this phase a lot better. I feel like also the streaming thing didn't help.
No, it didn't.
Like putting everything on the streaming stuff, like it didn't help. No one wants to watch freaking Loki, bro.
No one's gonna watch 12 episodes. Loki was the best show, but no one's watching. What's the latest show that just played? And we don't even know. Ironheart. Like, I get it. It's good. It's fine. I've heard good things about it, but no one's gonna sit there and watch it.
I've never watched
it. The same way nobody really watched. And it's sad to say. Look at the Daredevil season 4 numbers. No one watched it. And that's Daredevil. People watched the first 3. They didn't watch season 4 like that. And the one before it, I don't even know what came before it. No one watched that either. So the only show that people actually watched was WandaVision. And that's because that was the first Disney Plus show. So people were committed to it. And because Sam Raimi was directing Doctor Strange, they made it very obvious that this movie with the show, but then they drank their own Kool-Aid, and nothing was more apparent than the Marvel Captain Marvel 2, where they incorporated Miss Marvel and all these other Disney Plus characters, and no one cared. And then Thunderbolts,
that was atrociously bad.
And in Thunderbolts, every single character is a Disney Plus character, every single one except for Black Widow. So again, it is what it is. But Fantastic Four First Steps, I think we'll talk about it more in future podcasts and discuss kind of where it sits among the superhero movies. I think this is it for the superhero movies this year. So we discussed I don't think Thunderbolts or Captain America 4 is in our discussion point anyway. So it was a battle between some just came. Did Madam did a Sony movie come out this year?
Madam Web.
Oh yeah, Craven came out this year.
That was last year, wasn't it? Or was it January?
Okay.
I don't know if it came out, but that came and went. So either way, what did you guys think about the Fantastic Four First Steps? Do you think that this is kind of bringing you back into the MCU or not? And who do you think is going to win the battle of the summer between Superman and Fantastic Four? We want to hear your thoughts and hear who's going to win the box office this summer between the two. I think it might be Superman, but just by hair. I think
it's going to be the Avatar trailer.
It's going to be after. We'll discuss it in the future, but that might have been the best part of the night. I don't know. But either way, let us know what you think, and we'll see you next time. So from myself, from Zion, from Samir, and from Umar, we're the Farooqi Bros, and we'll see you next time. Peace out.